The first rule of running is knowing when to stop. And I stopped on purpose. Rain slid down my neck, cold and methodical, soaking into the collar of my jacket as I stepped out of the shadows. The industrial zone at the edge of the city smelled exactly the way it looked: rust, wet concrete, old metal bleeding memories into puddles. A place no one came unless they were lost, hiding, or hunting. Tonight, I was done hiding. I dragged my fingers along a corrugated steel wall on purpose, slow enough to leave skin cells and scent behind. A rookie mistake. Or it would be, if I were actually trying to escape. 3 years on the run teaches you patterns. 5 teaches you patience. 7 teaches you that freedom isn't about distance, it's about timing. I exhaled, steadying my pulse. My heartbeat slowed the way I'd trained it to. The way the handlers in my old pack hated. Omegas weren't supposed to do that. We were supposed to panic. To soften. To melt. I stayed exactly where I was, standing in the open space between 2 abandoned warehouses, rain soaking my hair, hands visible. Come on then. I felt him before I heard him. The shift in pressure came first, the atmosphere tightening. The way air does right before a storm breaks. Alpha presence wasn't just smell or instinct. It was gravity. A quiet command written into the bones of the world. He moved fast. Too fast for any one human to track. But I turned anyway, because I wanted him to know I wasn't surprised. He landed behind me, boots splashing into water with barely a sound. One hand already around my wrist, the other pressing between my shoulders, pinning me forward with efficient force. No hesitation, no wasted motion. Professional. Don't, he said softly, like a courtesy, not a warning. I didn't struggle. My compliance startled him. I felt it in the half-second pause before his grip adjusted, tighter now, recalibrating for resistance that never came. His scent hit me then. Cold pine, iron, something sharp and restrained beneath it. Control, honed into a weapon. Good. I'd hoped for that. Hi, I said, voice calm despite the rain streaking down my face. You must be Roan. Silence. The pressure increased. Not painful, deliberate. Testing. You talk too much, he said finally. His voice was low, even. Not angry. Not curious. Like he'd already filed me under problem. I get nervous when I'm being kidnapped, I replied. Occupational hazard. He tugged my arms behind my back and snapped restraints around my wrists with mechanical precision. Silver-lined. Standard issue. Still, I didn't resist. That annoyed him more than screaming ever could have. Walk, he ordered. I did. No limp. No hesitation. I matched his pace easily, even with his hands still between my shoulders, guiding me like cargo. He smelled my lack of fear. I knew he did. Alphas always did. It scraped at their instincts, the same way silence does. After 3 steps, I spoke again. I want a deal. He stopped walking. Rain tapped against metal. Somewhere far off, an engine growled and faded. He leaned in close enough that his breath warmed the shell of my ear. You don't get terms, he said. You get returned. I let you catch me, I replied lightly. That gives me at least 1 sentence. His hand tightened. Not in anger. In disbelief. No Omega let himself be caught. I don't negotiate with runaways, he said. I tilted my head just enough to look at him from the corner of my eye. Tall. Broad shoulders. Scar at the edge of his jaw, nearly hidden by stubble. His eyes were a flat, dangerous gray. Hunter's eyes. The kind that measured distance and consequence instead of mercy. Then this is going to be inconvenient for both of us, I said. He turned me roughly and shoved me back against the warehouse wall. Metal rang under my spine, cold seeping through my clothes. His presence slammed down harder now, instinct flaring, testing my boundaries the way alphas did when they expected submission. My body reacted, of course it did. Heat flickered low and traitorous, nerves lighting up in reflexive recognition. I shut it down. Breath in. Breath out. Walls up. His eyes narrowed. That right there, was the moment he realized something was wrong. Name, he said. Kai, I answered. Just Kai. He studied my face, searching for cracks. There weren't any I wasn't willing to show. You're calmer than the files suggested, he said. I smiled faintly. The files were written by people who wanted me broken. That earned me a flicker of something sharp and unreadable. He stepped back, hand never leaving my restraints. Not releasing. Not tightening. A soldier considering variables. "You're coming with me," he said. "Back to the center." I assumed as much. No detours. Wouldn't dream of it. I watched him process that. Watched irritation curl tight in the line of his mouth. He hated unpredictability. Hated when things didn't align neatly into threat and solution. Good. As he guided me toward the waiting vehicle, alpha pressure still humming like static between us, I let my gaze drift back to the dark warehouse, to the rain washing away old tracks. I'd chosen my moment well. He thought he'd won the hunt. He thinks he caught me. I think I found my way in. The doors sealed with a dull hydraulic thunk that sounded final in a way only armored vehicles manage. The cabin lights dimmed automatically, dissolving the city into streaks of white and amber beyond the narrow windows as we pulled onto the highway. Close quarters changed everything. Roan took the seat opposite me, knees wide, one arm braced against the metal wall like the vehicle itself needed guarding. The restraints stayed on but loosened, just enough to remind me I wasn't helpless cargo. I could have lunged. I could have tried something dramatic. I didn't. Silence stretched between us, tight as a drawn wire. I let my breathing settle into something maddeningly ordinary. Not shallow, not defiant. Boring. It made alphas itch. I studied him instead. Up close, he smelled restrained. Pine, iron, rain-soaked leather. There was heat under it but locked away behind discipline and rules, like a blade kept permanently sheathed. His movements were economical. No wasted shifts. No shows of dominance for their own sake. Even now, his eyes flicked reflexively to the mirrors, then back to me, then to the road ahead. Always assessing. "You always this talkative," he said without looking at me. "Or am I special?" I smiled to myself. "Special?" He exhaled sharply through his nose. "Figures." The vehicle accelerated. The hum of the engine filled the cabin, vibrating through the floor and into my bones. The faster we went, the more his presence pressed in. Not aggressive exactly, but undeniable. Like swimming upstream against something strong and patient. My omega instincts stirred, unfurling like a cat stretching. A bad habit. One I'd spent years unlearning. I folded them back with effort. Roan noticed. His jaw tightened, just a fraction. He adjusted his gloves, not necessary, not functional. A tell. Small, but real. Interesting. "How long do they think it takes to break someone like me?" I asked lightly. He glanced at me then, full on. Those gray eyes pinned me in place, sharp and searching. "You're not special." I met his gaze without blinking. "Then why are your shoulders tense?" That caused a reaction, not much. A micro-flinch. Control slammed back into place so quickly, it would have gone unnoticed by anyone less practiced. "I escort," he said, voice flat. "I don't speculate." "That's a shame," I replied. "Speculation keeps things exciting." Silence dropped again. Thicker this time. The vehicle hit a stretch of open road, speed increasing. City lights gave way to darkness. I tried something risky. "Are you going to mark me when we get there?" I asked. The change was immediate. The air shifted, heavy and sharp, like static before lightning. Roan's hand curled into a fist against his knee. He didn't move toward me, but I felt the sudden focus of his attention like heat on bare skin. "We don't discuss that," he said. "Why not?" "You don't belong to anyone yet," he said tightly. "Yet." My pulse answered before my mind could stop it. One traitorous skip that he absolutely felt. My body reacted hard, heat blooming low and slow, a response I'd broken my bones to train away. I clenched my jaw and buried it. "Funny thing about belonging," I murmured. "It's always louder in the mouths of people who want it." His gaze snapped back to mine, sharp as a blade edge. "Careful." I tilted my head, chains clinking softly. "That's what they used to tell my brother. That did it." He turned fully toward me then, posture rigid, control stretched too tight. The engine noise swallowed the first heartbeat of silence, but not the second. "What did you say?" he asked. I shrugged. Nothing worth repeating. For a dangerous moment, I thought he might actually grab me. The thought sent another flare of unwanted heat through my system. Not fear exactly. Tension. Anticipation. My omega side was a traitor with a death wish. I forced my breathing even. Roan looked away. He didn't touch me. Didn't push. Didn't snap back with a threat. Instead, he stared out the narrow window into the blur of the road, like he needed distance to keep something contained. A compromise. I filed that away. The rest of the ride passed in silence, but it wasn't empty anymore. It crackled between us. Unfinished sentences, instincts denied, questions that had lodged themselves somewhere uncomfortable. As the vehicle slowed and the outline of the center finally emerged against the dark horizon, I leaned back against the seat, chains cool against my wrists, heart beating slow and steady. I'd seen this type before. People convinced they weren't after power. They talked about it too much. People who don't want power never talk about it this much. They don't drag me out of the transport like a prisoner. That would be too honest for a place like this. The center rises out of the night like a glass sermon, clean lines, warm light, eco-friendly facade. Integration facility, the sign says in soft white letters, as if they re-welcoming me to a wellness retreat and not a cage with good branding. The air smells like rain washed off the city, then passed through 10 filters. Sterile, cool, faintly antiseptic. Underneath, muted threads of scent curl at the edges of my awareness. Alphas, betas, omegas. Layers of lives pressed into concrete, paint and recycled air. And something else. Something that makes my lungs forget how to work for one sharp, brutal second. Him. It's not a full scent, more like the echo of a chord long after the sound died. Familiar molecules tangled with memory. Warm cedar, wind on stone. The harsh, clean bite of old soap. My chest tightens. For an instant the world shrinks to that ghost, that almost recognition. I swallow it down before it can hit my face. Roan's hand closes on my elbow, firm but not rough. Professional. His grip says, I can snap you in half. His restraint says, but I won't. Yet. Move, he murmurs. I do. My legs are steady. My heart is not. The sliding doors part silently. Inside is all bright white and pale wood, curated plants and soft indirect lighting. It looks like a lobby for a tech startup that sells mindfulness apps. Welcome to Central Integration, a warm voice says. The man behind the curved reception desk smiles with all his teeth and none of his eyes. He's in his 40s, hair immaculate, tie straight, tablet in hand. His scent is so neutral it might as well be printed on. Subject K-17, Roan says, voice clipped. Omega, high value, retrieval completed. No resistance. I bite back a comment about how I do in fact know how to resist. I just chose not to. For now. The man's smile widens by exactly 4 millimeters. Mr. Karen, he corrects smoothly. We prefer names to numbers. Central believes in dignity. Roan's jaw ticks. Interesting. The administrator, because of course that's what he is, glances at his tablet. Eyes skimming whatever nightmare they've compiled about me. Formerly of the Highridge Pack, he reads. Elevated Compatibility Index, unmarked. Self-terminated bond negotiations, His gaze flicks up, curiosity glinting. You've caused quite a stir, Mr. Karen. Glad to know my fan club's still active, I say lightly. Should I sign something? Posters? Release forms for my inevitable tragic documentary? There's a flicker at the corner of his mouth. Not amusement. Calculation. We don't see you as a criminal, he says. You are a resource. A potential asset. Central's goal is to help every Omega find their optimal role, to protect you. There it is. The benevolent pronoun. Protect. Beside me, Roan's aura is a low, controlled burn. He doesn't like the administrator's wording. He also doesn't contradict it. So what's next? I ask. Do I get the tour, free tote bag, complimentary scent-blocking bracelet? Processing, the administrator replies. Standard intake. Evaluation, medical scan, compatibility reassessment. After that we move to integration planning. Integration, I echo. That sounds almost voluntary. He holds my gaze with that smooth, polished patience of someone who has dealt with every reaction before. Anger, panic, bargaining. They probably have scripts for all of them. I don't give him any of those. Come, he says. We'll keep your escort with you, for your comfort and ours. His eyes flick briefly to Roan. Escort. That's one word for him. We move along a corridor that looks like it was designed by someone who wanted people to stop being afraid and start being compliant. Soft wall colors, muted art, privacy glass. No visible cameras, which just means they're hiding in plain sight. Doors line the hallway, each identified by discrete symbols instead of numbers. I catch a scent behind one, sharp anxiety, suppressed tears, a beta, and behind another, the dull heavy fog of sedatives. The echo of my brother's scent threads through it all. Old, faint, but there, like the ghosts of his footsteps have been built into the floor. My palms are damp, but my voice is steady when I say, busy place. You run on appointments, or is it more of a once you're in you never leave kind of spa? We run on outcomes, the administrator says. Please. In here. He opens a door into a room that screams medical without showing its teeth, an exam table that looks almost like a lounge chair, cabinets hidden behind seamless panels, a sleek monitor on the wall displaying soothing patterns. A woman in a pale gray coat looks up from a workstation. Not white. A little softer than that. Her hair is braided back, her eyes sharp and tired, like she's seen more than she says and won't ever say enough. Subject? She asks. Karen? The administrator says. Omega. High value. Direct retrieval. No sedation used. By choice, I add. Don't forget that part. It's important for my brand. The medic's gaze moves to me, and something in her expression changes. Not dramatically, just a subtle hitch, like she's shifted to a higher resolution. Sit, she says, nodding to the chair. Roll up your sleeve. Roan positions himself against the wall, one shoulder braced there, arms crossed. I can feel his focus like heat on the side of my face. I sit. The chair adjusts automatically to my weight and posture, humming softly. Name? The medic asks. Kai, I answer. If I'm a resource, you at least owe me the courtesy of syllables. Her lips twitch. I'm Dr. Arden. I'm here to make sure Central doesn't break its toys. That's comforting, I say. In a mildly horrifying way. She takes my wrist, fingers cool and steady on my pulse. Her scent is a muted blend of herbs and soap, overlaying the low thrum of controlled power. Beta, but not the type anyone should underestimate. You're under no sedatives? She confirms. Unless disappointment counts. Her eyes flick briefly to Roan. Any injuries? None, he says. I'm not sure if he's talking about me or himself. Dr. Arden snaps a cuff around my arm. It tightens, measuring. The monitor on the wall lights up with my vitals, blood pressure, hormonal markers. An abstract painting of my biology. As numbers appear, I watch her eyebrows climb by degrees. Baseline suppression. Impressive, she murmurs. Cortisol elevated. Adrenal response within expected parameters for a retrieval, but no sense spike? Your control's unusual. Years of practice, I say. You'd be amazed what you can override when people keep trying to rewrite your life. Her eyes sharpen. Have you ever been marked, Kai? The word drops heavy into the room. Behind me I feel Roan's aura tense. Just a fraction, but I'm tuned to him now. To alphas in general. Surviving them requires it. No, I say. And we're all very proud of that fact, aren't we? Central has policies regarding unmarked omegas, the administrator says smoothly. Protections. Opportunities. There it is again, I cut in. Protections. You all talk about power like it's a burden you nobly carry for us fragile creatures. It's almost sweet. Roan finally speaks. Enough. The word is quiet and hits like a physical tap to the sternum. My omega instincts want to flinch, to fold. I don't. Dr. Arden glances between us, then says mildly, he's not wrong. Language shapes compliance. The administrator's smile freezes for half a second. Doctor. She ignores him, focusing back on me. Side effects, headaches, nausea, dizziness? Just the usual existential dread, I say. And the faint sensation of being in a very pretty trap. Her gaze flicks to the monitor again, then lower, to the faint shimmer along my skin where my own dampened scent pushes against the sterile air. You smell something, she says softly. It's not a question. My throat tightens. I smell a lot of things. Specifically. Her eyes are too knowing. What brought you here, Kai, really? The administrator shifts. Dr. Arden. Intake motivation is not him, I say, before I can stop myself. The word scrapes its way out, small and raw. I smell him. Silence spreads, thin and taut. Roan straightens from the wall. Who? He asks. His voice is different on that single syllable. Less steel, more something else. Something that hooks under my ribs. I turn my head to look at him fully. His eyes are focused. Too focused. The gold ring around the dark center faintly brighter. Of course he doesn't know. That thought lands cold and crystallized in my chest. Your files really are incomplete, aren't they? I say quietly. You drag people back here, and you don't even read the parts that matter. That's enough, the administrator snaps, the smooth mask cracking for the first time. Mr. Karen, you are here to be evaluated and reintegrated for your own safety and for the stability of the packs. Whatever grievances you have with your former alpha. This isn't about him, I cut in. This is about the ghost you built this place on. The administrator stiffens. Dr. Arden's eyes sharpen even further. Roan takes a step closer, like he can physically pin the truth in place. Explain, he says. I hold his gaze. The echo of my brother's scent curls at the edges of my senses like smoke. No, I reply. And the word tastes like a small sharp victory. Not yet. You're just the lock. I'm looking for the key. Roan's jaw clenches. You're playing with systems you don't understand, Kai. I laugh, soft and humorless. You keep saying that. But, look around. I spread my free hand, indicating the bright walls, the hidden cameras, the kind medic who calls us toys, the administrator who calls us resources. This isn't your den in the woods, Hunter. This is a cage without bars. And you? I let my gaze rake over him, the badge on his chest, the restraint in his shoulders. You don't even know what you're guarding. The line hangs between us, sharp as a drawn blade. For the first time since he caught me, Roan actually looks unsettled. Just a crack, a hairline fracture in that carefully controlled facade. But I see it. The system hums around us, smooth and efficient and certain of its own righteousness. I sit there in the middle of it, heartbeat steady, wrists free, no visible chains. But a cage is still a cage, even when they call it protection. And I didn't walk into it to be tamed. They don't call it torture here. They call it assessment. Sounds nicer on paper. Feels the same in my bones. The room is all white angles and soft lights, clinical, almost spa-like. If you ignore the restraints and the faint smell of antiseptic and fear. The floor has just enough give to suggest for your safety, not for when you collapse. I'm standing barefoot on a marked circle. Sensors cling to my skin, behind my ear, along my spine, on the inside of my wrist where my pulse beats too fast for comfort. Roan stands behind a glass partition, arms folded, like a very judgmental statue. He's shed his rain-soaked jacket from last night, now it's fitted black tactical gear. Sleeves rolled up to his forearms, veins faintly visible when his hands flex. The man looks like a recruitment poster for bad decisions I swore I'd never make again. Begin baseline, the medic says. Her name is Dr. Han, if I remember her badge right. Calm eyes, neutral scent, brain constantly working. Heart rate elevated. Expected, given your classification. I smile pleasantly. Sorry, Doc. I'll try to be more boring next time. There shouldn't be a next time if this goes well, the administrator adds from his console, still smiling that smooth, careful smile. His name is Jay. He hasn't stopped smiling since I arrived, which feels like a threat. Ready when you are, Mr. Kai. Not Omega. Not Asset. Mr. Kai. They've invested in branding. The first set of tests is physical, agility, strength, endurance. Run. Jump. Dodge foam projectiles that sting a little too much. They watch how I move, how I breathe, how fast I recover. Data flows across the monitors like a heartbeat translated into graphs. I give them enough to be impressed, not enough to be sure of me. Pain comes in the second phase. Of course it does. Now we'll test your response thresholds, Doctor, Han says, tone light, almost apologetic, as the restraints click into place around my wrists. They're padded, but I still feel the hidden hard edge beneath. Roan shifts behind the glass. I feel his gaze like another restraint. A device lowers on a mechanical arm, small pads that will press against my ribs, my back, my neck. Low-frequency pulses, calibrated to trigger nerves and instincts without leaving marks. If my old pack could see this, they'd be furious. Not out of compassion, out of professional jealousy. On your word, Jay says. We'll stop if you use the safe phrase. Which is? I ask. I submit. Of course it is. My lips twitch. Cute? Dr. Han gives me a brief warning look. It's not a trick. The system is keyed to those words. Say them, and everything stops. Got it, I say. Good to know what won't be coming out of my mouth. She exhales softly, but she doesn't push. At least one person here understands the difference between compliance and survival. The first jolt hits like an electric bite beneath my skin. Not sharp enough to make me scream, but deep enough that my muscles jump without my consent. It's designed to tap into instinct, into the part of me that was trained from birth to obey, to yield, to roll my throat bare. I keep my head high. Level 1, Jay narrates. Minimal response. The second pulse comes stronger, crawling along my spine. My hands tighten in the restraints. I focus on the details, the hum of the machine, the cold air on my sweat-damp chest, the way Roan's reflection in the glass doesn't move, but his scent tightens, darker, edged. Level 3 hurts. It's not the worst I've felt. Not even close. But it reaches inside and claws at the old training, at the commands that were burned into my nerves. Kneel. Yield. Don't embarrass your alpha. I breathe in slow, through my nose, out through my mouth. I picture my brother's face. You can take it, I tell myself. Pain is not control. Pain is just information. And because I'm me, because my mouth always moves before it should, I laugh. It's a little breathless, but it counts. Is this the premium package? I manage. I feel underwhelmed. Jay's smile flickers for the first time. Dr. Han glances at the monitor. He's dissociating from pain. Externalizing. It's a coping mechanism. Roan's voice cuts in, rougher than before. Or, he's showing off. He steps into the room without waiting for clearance. The door hisses shut behind him, sealing us in together with the hum of the machine and the taste of ozone. The pressure of his presence slams into me like a silent shout. Level 3 sustained, Jay calls from the console. Agent Roan, we're mid-assessment. Pause it, Roan orders. There's a beat of silence. The machine powers down. Pain recedes like a tide, leaving my nerves buzzing. I sag a little in the restraints before I force myself upright again. I will not hang from them. I will stand. Roan comes to stand in front of me. Up close, his scent is an aggravating blend of self-control and something frayed at the edges. My body recognizes the alpha in him, even while my mind writes snarky footnotes about power hierarchies and bad life choices. He looks me over slowly, eyes catching on the faint tremors in my arms, the sheen of sweat at my hairline. Why are you doing this? He asks. Because I love spending quality time in institutional lighting? I say lightly. You should see my bucket list. His jaw tightens. Not this, he says. This. He gestures vaguely at me, at the restraints, at my stubborn refusal to fold. Fighting it. Pushing yourself. You know where this ends. I hold his gaze. Do the first? You know what you are, he says. You know what they want from you. This is easier if you cooperate. Easier for who? I ask. You? Them? The report you file after this so they can color me in on their charts? He leans in, close enough that I can see the tiny scar at the corner of his mouth, like someone once split his lip and he let it heal crooked. Close enough that my heartbeat stutters and my body does the traitorous thing it always does. Around alphas leans toward warmth, toward gravity, toward the promise of less alone. His voice drops. You think pain impresses me? I think pain doesn't impress me anymore, I say, my own voice softer, almost conversational. It's cheap, it's easy. Any pack can hurt a body. The interesting part is what they do after. Something flickers in his eyes. For a second, the professional mask cracks, and I glimpse something raw underneath, a flash of memory or recognition he doesn't want. He covers it with anger. You're making this harder than it has to be, he says. I smile, sharp and sweet. Good. The silence between us tightens. His aura presses heavier, instinct screaming at me to lower my eyes, expose my throat, submit. My muscles quiver with the effort of staying upright, of keeping my chin at that precise angle that says, I see what you are, and I'm choosing not to bow. His hand comes up, not to strike, not to grab my neck, but to wrap around my wrist, right above the restraint. His fingers are hot against my skin. My pulse jumps under his touch. His nostrils flare. There it is. The first real crack in his control. I feel it as surely as I feel the heat gathering low in my stomach, that awful, familiar pull of bond chemistry, of a body that was bred and trained to respond. No. I clamp down on it, drag my mind back to the cold metal biting my skin, the distant hum of machinery, the faint echo of my brother's scent buried somewhere in the building. Roan's thumb moves once over my pulse point. A tiny movement. A devastating one. For a strange suspended second, we're both still. Me, breathing too fast. Him, caught between roles, handler, hunter, man. If he steps closer, if he tips my chin up, if he lets his aura wrap around me. Fully. Something inside me might break in a way I can't glue back together. So I ruin it. Careful, I murmur. tilting my head just enough to make it look deliberate. Keep touching me like that, and HR will have to file a report. His eyes darken. The spell shatters. He lets go of my wrist like it burned him and steps back, putting space between us, rebuilding distance brick by brick. Resume, he says curtly without looking at me. The machine hums to life again. By the time they're done, my muscles feel like overcooked noodles, and my nerves hum with a low throbbing ache. They unstrap me, hand me a bottle of water, make a few notes about tolerance and resistance to alpha compulsion. Remarkable, Jay says. All cheerful efficiency again. You're unusual, Mr. Kai. Our projections will need updating. Glad I spiced up your graphs, I mutter, rolling my shoulders. Do I get a sticker? Dr. Han's lips twitch. You get rest, she says. For now. They escort me back to the suite they assigned me. Not a cell, technically. No bars. Just a door that opens only from the outside and cameras that blink red in the corners. A cage without bars is still a cage. It just looks better in the brochure. I sink onto the edge of the bed, letting my head fall back against the wall. My body hums with exhausted, angry energy. Underneath the pain, under the stubborn refusal to yield, there's something else coiled tight. Want, not the soft, dreamlike bond want they promised us as kids. Not the fairy tale of perfect matches and gentle alphas who would never raise their voices. This is sharper, messier, tied up in defiance and adrenaline. And the way Roan's hand felt against my skin. I close my eyes. No. Not again. Not like this. Not with someone whose job description includes words like retrieve and neutralize and asset. I've already been owned once. Marked once. Promised the world and handed a leash. I'm not afraid of pain. I'm afraid of liking the hand that tightens the collar. A soft chime interrupts my spiral. The door opens with a hiss. Roan steps inside. He doesn't bring guards. Doesn't bring a tablet or cuffs. Just himself, in a plain black shirt now instead of gear, sleeves pushed up as if he came straight from training. He closes the door behind him. Is this my performance review? I ask. Should I sit up straighter? Stay where you are, he says. He stands a few steps away, as if he's not sure whether getting closer is a good idea. His scent is calmer now, but there's a restless edge to it, like static before a storm. For a few beats, the only sound is the faint hum of air conditioning and my own heartbeat trying to jump out of my chest. You did well today, he says finally. I snort. Wow. High praise. I'll embroider it on a pillow. He ignores that. They'll back off tomorrow. Different set of tests. Great. Can't wait to see what flavors of fun you have left. Kai. He says my name like he's testing it on his tongue. It does something uncomfortable to my ribs. I meet his gaze. Yes, Agent Roan. He hesitates. For the first time since I met him, he looks unsure. The realization hits me with a stupid, inappropriate bolt of satisfaction. I got under his skin. I did that. What? I ask, softer. His eyes search my face, as if the answer might be written there already. What are you so afraid of? He asks quietly. It isn't pain. It isn't them. So what is it? The question hangs in the air between us, heavier than any command. My throat works. A dozen flippant answers line up on my tongue, jokes about needles, about bad haircuts, about institutional coffee. I could make him roll his eyes and walk away, could patch over the crack he just opened. But the real answer is too close to bone. Being owned. Being wrong about someone again. Looking at an alpha, and seeing a way out instead of another door closing. I say nothing. I hold his gaze, let the silence stretch until it turns from a question into a wall. Roan's fingers flex at his side, like he wants to reach for me and doesn't know why. For a heartbeat, something vulnerable flickers across his face. Confusion. Frustration, and something that looks uncomfortably like concern. Then his jaw locks. The mask slides back into place. He nods once, as if I've told him something anyway. Rest, he says, voice clipped. You'll need it. He turns and walks out, leaving the door to hiss shut between us. I exhale slowly, my chest tight, my pulse still tripping over itself. He wants answers. Good. I think, not without a twisted sense of victory. The more questions he has, the closer he'll have to come. Breakfast arrives without ceremony. No tray. No plastic cutlery. A real plate, warm ceramic, steam curling from scrambled eggs and toast that smells faintly of butter. Whoever designed this place knew exactly how to disarm people, comfort masquerading as choice. I sit cross-legged on the bed and watch it get set down on the low table by someone who isn't a guard. A young beta with soft hands and eyes trained not to linger. "Water?" he asks. "Please," I say. Polite costs nothing. He pours, nods, and leaves without a word. The door seals behind him with that familiar quiet click. I stare at the plate. My stomach growls its betrayal. "They're feeding you now," Roan says from the doorway. "That's new." I look up. He hasn't come inside yet, just standing there, one shoulder braced against the frame like he's waiting for a reason to either enter or walk away. Plain clothes again. Dark shirt. Tired eyes he hasn't bothered to hide. "Progress," I say. "Another week, and I might earn a menu. Eat." It's not an order. Or maybe it is. Hard to tell with him. I break off a piece of toast and chew slowly, deliberately. The room smells like food now instead of antiseptic, and it softens something mean inside my ribcage. I hate that it works. "You look better," he says. "Wow," I reply. "You should put that on your resume under people skills." The corner of his mouth lifts, then flattens again. He scans the room out of habit, camera corners, door, window, as if I might escape through a painting that isn't there. He doesn't sit. But he steps in. Micro-intimacy, number 1. Proximity. Not touching. Just closer. "You didn't answer my question yesterday," he says. "I answer plenty of questions," I reply. "Just not the dangerous ones. Those are the only kind worth asking." I swallow and set the toast down. My appetite fades, replaced by that familiar alertness I've learned to obey. "They're running deeper scans today," he continues. "Not the kind you joke through. I'm devastated." He exhales sharply. "Kai, that again. Casual. Almost personal. What did you smell in the intake room?" He asks. There it is. The real reason he's here. I take a sip of water, letting the silence stretch just enough to be irritating. "A ghost," I say. He frowns. "I don't believe in ghosts." That explains a lot. His jaw tightens. Micro-intimacy number 2. The way he speaks my name like it matters. "I read the files," he says. "Your family, former pack. There's no one unaccounted for." I look at him over the rim of the glass. Files are stories written by people who think they're done thinking. Silence. Static hums beneath his skin. "Say it plainly," he says. I set the glass down carefully. The room feels smaller suddenly, like the walls are leaning in to listen. "My brother," I say, and then, because there's no point teasing this one, I add his name. Roan. The effect is immediate. Roan jerks like he's been struck, the sound tearing out of him before he can stop it, a sharp inhale, rough and unguarded. His control stumbles. For the first time since I met him, his scent spikes. Anger, yes, but not clean, not controlled. Shock. The room tilts, just a little. "That's not..." He starts, then cuts himself off. His eyes go unfocused for a heartbeat, like he's seeing something else over my shoulder. A memory maybe. Or a wound he never let scab over. Interesting. "You sure made a noise for a name you don't recognize," I say quietly. He drags a hand through his hair and immediately stills, as if realizing he's broken some personal rule. When he looks back at me, the steel is back in his gaze. But it's sharper now. Defensive. "You shouldn't know that name." I smile faintly. People don't usually guard strangers that carefully. I didn't say I guarded him. I tilt my head. "You didn't have to..." The silence stretches. He's breathing more shallowly now, shoulders still a fraction too tight. I mentally check off inconsistencies like points on a map. "You told me you escorted assets," I say. Plural. "You said you don't speculate. Yet you flinch at a name buried under layers of sealed records." "Kai." I smell him here. I press on, softly now. Not like a current resident, like an echo. Like someone important ended and never got closure. Roan steps closer without meaning to. I see the moment he realizes it and stops himself, planting his feet. "That's enough," he says. "But it lacks teeth." "Is it?" I ask. Because this whole place smells like denial. For a long second, I think he might snap at me. Yell. Slam his fist into the wall. Do something that proves I've hit something raw. Instead, he looks tired. "Eat," he says again, quieter. I watch him, then comply. If only to buy us both time. I eat slowly. He paces once, then stills, leaning against the opposite wall. He keeps distance now, deliberate. Micro-intimacy number 3, the pause he gives me, unforced. When I'm halfway through the plate, he crosses to the door and taps a code into the panel. The door unlocks and opens enough to slide something through, a second glass of water, cold this time. He sets it on the table without comment. Thanks, I say. He nods once. Neither of us mentions names. Neither of us mentions shock or the split-second loss of control that betrayed him. It's like a poorly rehearsed dance in which we both pretend we didn't miss a step. When I finish eating, I push the plate aside and swing my legs back onto the bed. Roan lingers at the door. They'll increase security today, he says. You stirred things. Good. They'll watch your reactions more closely. I'm counting on it. He hesitates, then adds, if they ask about anything personal, I'll plead ignorance, I offer. It's a skill. That almost earns me a smile. Almost. He turns to leave, then stops. Your brother, he says, voice level again, too controlled. Why are you looking for him? The question lands heavier than I expect. I consider him. The set of his shoulders, the way he's rebuilt his walls so quickly, the anger disciplined into something useful. I could tell him the truth. Or lie. Or dodge. I choose silence. I meet his eyes and say nothing. His jaw flexes. He nods, once, sharp. Rest, he repeats, for the second time in 12 hours. The door closes behind him, sealing the quiet back in. I lie down on the bed, staring at the ceiling, my body warm with food and adrenaline, my mind busy stitching together what he didn't say. Roan. The way Roan reacted wasn't surprise. It was loss. And rage. And something that hadn't healed right. I close my eyes, heart steadying. Rage doesn't sound like that when it's fake. Real rage doesn't calm down overnight. It just learns to sit quietly in the corner and stare. By morning, Roan looks like he hasn't slept. His shirt is fresh, hair damp from a quick shower, movements as precise as ever. But his eyes have that too bright sheen, like someone turned all his settings up to maximum and forgot how to dial them back down. He opens the door to my room. Room, not cell, because they're civilized. Monsters here. And stands there, blocking the light from the corridor. Get up, he says. I've been up, I answer, sitting cross-legged on the bed, back against the wall. Some of us don't need 8 hours of pretending not to feel anything. He doesn't bite. His jaw flexes once. A brief stutter under the stubble, and then he just steps aside. Medwing. Evaluation. Again? I slide off the bed, rolling my shoulders. They ache from yesterday's tests, but it's a contained ache, mapped and catalogued. Pain is easy when you decide where it lives. If you're trying to break me, you should at least vary the routine. This isn't about you. His voice is flat. Too flat. Move. He doesn't cuff me. Doesn't touch me. He just walks behind me, close enough that I can feel the heat of him, the pressure of his alpha aura held tight like a storm in a glass bottle. I don't flinch. I know exactly how far his shadow reaches now. We move through the corridors of the center, sterile white, soft light, no sharp corners. There's even piped-in birdsong in one hallway. Which feels like an insult more than anything. Someone got a humane facility catalog and went wild, I murmur. What? He asks, distracted. Nothing, just admiring the decor. You all really committed to the we're not a prison bit. It's not a prison, he says automatically. Of course not. That's why my door only opens from the outside. He doesn't answer. That silent third presence, real rage, not the staged version, walks between us like a ghost. The medwing smells like antiseptic, coffee, and stress. The lights are softer here, warmer, as if that makes the needles kinder. Monitors hum quietly. Somewhere a heart rate beeps a steady rhythm that's not mine. The medic from before is there, dark hair in a low knot, sleeves rolled up, eyes that look like they've seen too much and decided to keep their mouth shut about it. Morning, she says, letting her gaze run over me in a quick professional sweep. Sleep? Like a baby, I reply. Woke up every 2 hours and thought about my life choices. Her mouth twitches. Sit. I hop up on the exam table. The paper crinkles under me. Roan stands off to the side, arms folded, pretending he's just part of the furniture. You changed his schedule, the medic says without looking at him. We weren't supposed to run the next panel until tomorrow. Orders, Roan answers. Whose? She asks mildly. He doesn't reply. Interesting. She sighs, logs into the terminal, and pulls up a file. My name. My fake one, the one I used when I ran, neatly printed at the top. Below it, lines of data, graphs, notes. But the thing that hooks my attention isn't my file. It's the tab at the top of the screen that she clicks past without thinking, the one in the corner. Another name. Familiar enough that my body reacts before my brain does. My fingers go cold. Wait, I say. She hesitates, glancing at me. What? That tab. Go back. Roan's head snaps toward me, instincts flaring. Don't. But the medic's already looked. Her eyebrows lift a millimeter. You know the name? I swallow. My tongue feels thick. Of course I know it. It's been carved into every decision I've made since I ran. It's the reason I let myself be caught. The reason I'm here. My brother's name glows on the screen in soft, polite font. Alive in pixels, where he was supposed to be dead. Ren. The room tilts. I grip the edge of the table, knuckles whitening, forcing air into my lungs. My body wants to shift, to react, to do something. But I nail it down with sheer will. My voice comes out rough. I clear my throat. That's a mistake, right? That file should be archived. The medic goes still. Roan doesn't move at all. Silence stretches, thin as glass. Who told you he was dead? The medic asks quietly. I was there, I say. The lie tastes like ash, but it's easier than explaining. There was a report, an attack, a mission gone wrong, a fire. Pick any tragic cliché, we had it. She looks at Roan then, and that glance holds too much. My heart stutters. Say something, I tell him. Nothing. His jaw is clenched so tight I can hear his teeth grind. Roan. His name comes out sharper than I intended. Tell me this is a system error. That's your job, isn't it? Guarding the system, trusting it. His eyes finally meet mine. There's no professional distance left there. Just something raw, flayed open. He was listed as Kia, Roan says, voice low. I saw the report. I attended the debrief. The way he says it makes something ugly twist in my chest. You attended the funeral? I ask. He flinches. The medic exhales softly, like that one small reaction confirms everything. She taps a quick key combination, and suddenly Ren's file fills the screen. Vitals. Genetic markers. Experimental protocols. A timeline that starts after the date he was supposed to have died. All this time. All this time. The world narrows to that single vertical line of text, subject retained, rare gene expression. I laugh. It comes out wrong. Too sharp, too bright. Rare gene, I say. Of course. Couldn't just let him go when you realized he was useful. Don't. Roan says. I look at him. Really look. Past the uniform and the stoic lines. You knew him, I say. It's not a question. Not anymore. Every little thing clicks together. The way Roan reacted when I said Ren's name. The rage that wasn't fake. The way his control has been fraying at the edges like torn fabric. His fingers flex at his sides like he wants to reach for me and doesn't trust himself to. He was my partner, Roan says. The word partner hangs in the air. Heavy. Crowded. I shouldn't care what that means. It shouldn't matter if that's a mission designation or a bond or something in between. It matters anyway. Professionally? I ask, and my voice is steadier than I feel. Roan's eyes shudder. It was complicated. Wow, I say. You really picked the most useless answer. The medic clears her throat. I'm not supposed to let you see this, she says to me, which is almost adorable at this point. If they audit my access, they'll see you open the file because I requested it, Roan cuts in. Log it under my clearance. Her gaze sharpens. You sure you want that on record? No, he says. But it's too late to pretend this didn't happen. There's a small, mean part of me that's satisfied by his discomfort. I cling to it because it feels easier than dealing with the tidal wave rising under my ribs. Ren is alive. He's here. He's been here. And I wasn't. What are they doing to him? I ask, nodding at the screen. My throat feels like sandpaper. The medic hesitates. Roan looks at her, and there's an entire argument in that look. She loses. Monitoring, she says finally. His genome expresses an unstable variant. Strong regenerative potential, high compatibility with multiple alphas. They're mapping the limits. Mapping the limits, I repeat slowly. That sounds like a very clean way to say pushing until something breaks. She doesn't deny it. The edges of my vision blur. I close my eyes for a heartbeat, focusing on the weight of my body on the table, the cold air on my skin, the faint buzz of the light above. I didn't come here to escape, I say quietly. I didn't run because I couldn't handle being what they wanted. I open my eyes and stare straight at Roan. I didn't come for freedom, I tell him. I came for him. Something in his expression cracks, not loudly, not dramatically, just a subtle shift, like glass under pressure finally giving way. You planned this, he says, almost to himself. Letting me catch you, letting them bring you in. Congratulations, I say, managing a thin smile. You're only, 10 steps behind now? His gaze flicks to the screen again, to Ren's name, to the graphs and numbers that reduce a whole person to a set of valuable traits. When did you find out? He asks. That he was alive? I shrug one shoulder. Rumors, fragmented data, whispers in the underground, took me months to piece it together, but when you live your whole life in someone's shadow, you learn their shape, the holes they leave, the way systems bend around them. And you didn't tell anyone, he says. I laugh again. Softer this time. Tell who? The kind, benevolent pack that decided he was more useful as a lab asset than as a person? Or their favorite hunter, who attended his debrief and didn't ask enough questions? He flinches like I hit him. Good. Some part of him should hurt. I thought. His voice roughens. He swallows. I thought they were keeping him from me. Cutting the bond clean. They said it was for my own stability, that knowing more would compromise operational integrity. Did it? I ask. He meets my eyes. You tell me. He looks compromised as hell. Broken around the edges in ways he's only just noticed. Under any other circumstances, I'd enjoy that. Right now, I'm too busy trying not to shake. You're good at this, I say, because humor is armor and I'm running out of steel. Keeping your head down. Following orders. Not asking why your ex-partner's genome is still getting updated years after his reported death. Don't call him my ex, Roan says abruptly. That wasn't, we never. He stops, frustrated with his own mouth. I stare at him, and something aching and petty and human pushes its way out of my chest. Did you love him? I ask. The question lands like a thrown knife. He doesn't answer quickly. Doesn't deflect. He just stands there, breathing, while the silence thickens. Yes, he says finally. And the word sounds like it costs him something. I did. The medic busies herself with a tray of vials, eyes firmly on her work, as if she can shrink herself out of this conversation. I hate him a little in that moment. Not because he loved Ren. My brother deserved that, at least once in his life. I hate him because he got to be there. Because he believed a lie and went on with his life while I tore mine apart chasing ghosts. Good, I say, voice thin. Then you're going to help me. Roan's brows draw together. Help you what? Escape? Take you and your brother and what, walk out the front door? Why not? I ask lightly. You do security. I've seen your clearance levels. You could probably escort a bomb out of here if you stamped the right form. This isn't a game, Kai. Really? I tilt my head. Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like they've been playing with both of us for years. The medic clears her throat again, more sharply. Whatever you're planning, she says, don't do it in this room. There are more eyes here than mine. Roan's aura spikes, sharp, anxious. We're not planning anything. I smile, all teeth. Give it time. He steps closer then, just one measured pace, until the air between us is dense with his scent. Cedar, rain, and something like static before a storm. My body reacts, because I'm still an Omega no matter how much I claw at the walls of that box. Heat prickles under my skin, my pulse picks up. I shove it all down, cataloging it as data, not destiny. His eyes search my face, looking for, what? Permission? Forgiveness? A way out? I didn't know, he says quietly, about Ren, about any of this. I should have, but I didn't. I know, I answer. And I do. That's the worst part. I can see the edges of his ignorance now, the holes where questions should have been. Knowing doesn't mean I forgive him. Yet. But now you do, I add. So here's what's going to happen, Hunter. You're going to keep doing your job. Guarding, escorting, pretending everything is fine. And you? He asks. I look at the screen one more time. At my brother reduced to data points and value markers. I'm going to find a way to break your precious system, I say. From the inside. The medic mutters something under her breath that sounds suspiciously like a prayer. Roan holds my gaze for a long, burning second. Then he nods. Once. We'll talk later, he says to me. To the medic he adds. Run the panel. Log it under my authorization. I offer my arm for the needle. The skin there is already tender, but I've made peace with pain. It's dependency I don't trust. The medic swabs the crook of my elbow. The needle slides in. Blood flows. Data to feed the machine. I stare at the tiny crimson line and think of Ren somewhere in this building, hooked up to something much worse. The system thinks I came here broken, and will leave as a compliant asset. It's wrong. I didn't come for freedom. I came for him. They give you a warning before they try to own you. Not a dramatic one, not alarms or shouting, just a polite knock on the door, followed by a calm voice that says your name like it's already attached to paperwork. Kai, Dr. Han says, standing just outside my room with 2 security escorts at her back. We need you in integration. I swing my legs off the bed slowly, buying time with movement. My pulse is steady, but there's a familiar tightness under my ribs. The kind that comes when instinct starts whispering suggestions I don't intend to follow. Is this the part where you congratulate me on my resilience? I ask. Or the part where you explain why consent is suddenly optional? Her eyes flick past me, then back again. This isn't a punishment. It's necessary. That word again. Necessary has sharp edges. They don't cuff me. Of course they don't. They escort me down wide white halls into a chamber I haven't seen before. Round, softly lit, designed to look ceremonial rather than medical. The air here hums with pheromonal dampeners and something else beneath it, old and ritualized. A marking room. My omega instincts rear up violently now. All heat and pull and bone-deep recognition. My body remembers this space long before my mind finishes cataloging it. Circular platform. Anchors built into the floor. The faint metallic tang of binding glyphs disguised as modern tech. My hands curl into fists. Dr. Han doesn't meet my eyes. Jay stands near the console, all calm efficiency and benevolent concern. Given your genetic profile, he says smoothly, Central has approved an early bond stabilization. A controlled mark will ease your resistance, reduce stress and... No, I say. It comes out flat. Absolute. He smiles. Patient. Kai. This isn't a discussion. Behind me, the doors seal with a quiet thunk. I feel it then. Roan. Not his voice. His presence. He steps into the room like a storm that's learned how to walk softly. Plain clothes again. Jaw set so tight it could crack enamel. His eyes flick over the platform, the restraints, the sigils. He understands immediately. Agent Roan, Jay says. Good. You're required for compliance. I meet Roan's gaze across the room. This is it. This is the point where systems expect you to break. Not because you're weak, but because your body is older than your choices. Because instinct is a language learned before words. My omega side is screaming now. Take it. Let it happen. Marks mean safety. Marks mean quiet. Marks mean you don't have to fight anymore. I swallow hard. Dr. Han approaches with inhibitor cuffs, not restraints, not quite. Designed to lower resistance and heighten receptivity. Her hands shake just a little. I'm sorry, she says under her breath. For which part? I ask lightly. The science, or the betrayal? Her mouth tightens. Roan steps forward. This isn't protocol. Jay doesn't even look at him. It's approved at the highest level. For him? Roan gestures at me sharp. Or because the system doesn't like variables. Don't extrapolate, Jay snaps. You're here to assist with the mark. That, the word, hits me like a slap. I laugh. It's brittle, but it holds. Wow, I say. You really skipped the foreplay. Roan's aura flares, bright and dangerous and barely leashed. I feel it crash into my senses like heat against bare skin, instinct answering instinct before I can stop it. My knees weaken. I hate that. Hate how easy it would be to let him step forward. Let nature do what it was designed to do. Roan sees it. God's help me. He sees it. He reaches me in 3 long strides and stops just short, close enough that I can smell the rain in him, the steel, the restraint cracking at the edges. Look at me, he says. I do. His hands hover at my sides, not touching, never touching without permission. Kai, he says quietly. If they start this process, it doesn't stop. You won't get a second chance. I know, I whisper. So answer me, he says. His voice roughens. Do you want me to stop this? The room goes still. Jay's smile hardens. Dr. Han freezes. Everything funnels down into that one question. I could run. I could submit. I could let the system overwrite me into something easier to manage. Or, I take a breath. Feel my feet on the floor. Feel my spine straighten under my own control. Yes, I say. But not like that. Roan's brow furrows. Explain. I lift my chin. My voice steadies. I don't want a mark, not from you, not from anyone, but I am choosing this fight. I'm choosing to stand here, with you. The words tremble. But they hold. If you break protocol, Jay warns, you jeopardize your position, your clearance, everything. Roan doesn't look at him. I know. His shoulders relax, not in surrender, but in decision. Then he speaks the words that reshape the room. I don't want to own you. The sentence lands like a fault line cracking open. You will stand down, Jay says sharply. No, Roan replies. He turns, to the console, to the system, to the eyes behind the walls. I refuse the order. Log my refusal. Terminate the procedure. Alarms don't sound. They never do. Instead, the pressure surges. Bindings hum to life beneath my feet, instinct clawing up my throat, my body reacting violently to the threat of forced connection. Heat spikes. My vision blurs. I gasp, knees buckling. Roan catches me. Not possessive. Not dominant. Just there, one arm around my back, grounding. His other hand braces against my shoulder, steady and unwavering. His forehead presses briefly to mine, breath to breath. Breathe, he murmurs. Stay with me. I do. Short inhale, long exhale. My body shakes, but it listens. Stand down, Roan growls again, louder this time, alpha command sharpened into a blade, but aimed outward, not at me. Dr. Han swears softly and slams a manual override. The hum dies. The bindings dissolve into nothing. The room sags with the sudden absence of forced intent. I cling to Roan for half a second longer than necessary, then a fraction more. Not because I'm owned. Because I chose to. He doesn't tighten his grip. Doesn't mark, doesn't command. He lets me pull back at my own pace. Micro-intimacy. Respect. Jay looks furious now. Stripped of polish and benevolence. This isn't over, he says. No, I agree, straightening. My voice is hoarse but steady. It just stopped being easy for you. Security floods in but not toward me. Toward Roan. They surround him, weapons down but ready. He doesn't flinch. I step forward without thinking. Stand beside him. I'm not leaving, I say quietly. I chose this. Roan's gaze flicks to me sharp. Protective. I add, with a weak, crooked smile. Don't look so shocked. You make a compelling argument when you're not trying to collar me. For a heartbeat, just one, he almost smiles back. They escort him out. Not me. The doors seal again, but the air is different now. Thinner. Unstable. I sit on the edge of the platform afterward, exhausted, adrenaline still roaring through my veins. Dr. Han approaches cautiously. You'll need monitoring. I'll survive, I say. I always do. She nods, then hesitates. For what it's worth, thank you. When I'm alone again, heart finally slowing, I replay the moment over and over. Roan's hands hovering, not claiming. His voice, steady in the storm. The choice, mine. Whatever this becomes, it won't start with a mark. And I won't be owned to be protected. Freedom, it turns out, doesn't arrive with fanfare. No alarms, no speeches. No dramatic doors blowing open to sunlight and music swelling in the background. It arrives quietly, like a breath you didn't realize you were holding finally letting go. Ren looks smaller than I remember. Alive, undeniably alive, but thinner. Skin pale under the harsh lighting of the recovery wing. Dark circles under his eyes that make my chest ache. Tubes trail away from him like old arguments no one finished having. He blinks when I step into the room, then frowns. Kai? He says hoarsely. You look pissed. I laugh, and it cracks halfway through, turning my throat rough. You always hated understatement, I say, crossing the room in 3 strides and pulling him carefully into my arms. He smells like sterile sheets and faint cedar, real, warm, familiar. He exhales against my shoulder. You came? I pull back just enough to look at him. Of course I did. You're terrible at staying dead. A corner of his mouth lifts. You met him, didn't you? I freeze. Who? Ren's gaze sharpens despite the exhaustion. The hunter. The one with the control issues. I snort. That narrows it down. How? He was bad at lying, Ren says mildly. Always was. I glance over my shoulder instinctively. Roan isn't in the room. He's outside, leaning against the wall like he's pretending not to listen, hands in his pockets. Wearing civilian clothes for real this time, not duty adjacent, not borrowed authority. Just a man who made a choice and is still standing in it. Yeah, I admit quietly. I met him. Ren studies my face, then sighs. Figures. You always did like complicated. I like honest, I correct. Complicated just shows up anyway. The fallout comes fast after that. Not clean. Not gentle. But thorough. Files leak. Data trails surface. Oversight committees realize that resource retention sounds worse under public scrutiny. Administrators resign before they're fired. Jay's smile disappears from every hallway like it was never real. The center doesn't fall apart. It gets taken apart. Piece by piece. Ren is discharged under provisional autonomy. Translation, not free yet. But close enough to taste it. Close enough to plan. I don't wait around for the system to recover. On my last day, I pack exactly 1 bag. Roan meets me in the common atrium instead of the transport bay. No weapons. No escorts. You don't owe me anything, he says, like he's practiced the line. I know, I reply. That's why this works. We walk out together, just like that. Outside, the city smells sharper, louder, realer. Rain threatens, but doesn't fall. So, he says after a few steps. What now? I consider that. Ren rebuilding himself somewhere with trees and bad coffee. Me finding work that doesn't involve cages or collars. Roan learning how to exist without a leash disguised as duty. You're aware, I say, that I'm not an easy person to travel with. His mouth lifts. I've noticed. I don't compromise well. Noted. And if you ever try to mark me, I won't, he says immediately. I glance at him. He means it. That does something warm and terrifying under my ribs. We stop at a crosswalk. Traffic hums. Somewhere nearby, a street vendor is arguing with a customer about exact change. Normal life. Loud and imperfect. I hook my fingers briefly into Roan's sleeve. Not ownership. Just contact. He looks down at me. I don't belong to a pack. I don't belong to a system. I don't belong to an alpha. I straighten my shoulders and step forward when the light changes. I don't belong, but I choose.